Welcome to Unity of Charlotte. We've got a few changes going on today, so please bear with us. But I am so excited to be here for the third Sunday of Advent, which is love. And 1 week till Christmas Eve. So it's an exciting time, and we're so glad you're here to join us. And if you're on Zoom, welcome. It's always a delight to have you join us via Zoom. And if you're watching this later, thank you for checking us out. We hope you enjoy the service. My name's Reverend Lisa Herklotz. I am co-minister here with Reverend Jim Ernstsen, and it is our honor to be serving this community here. I would ask you to join us as we read together our mission statement. Unity of Charlotte is the place where we nurture a deep and mature experience of God through the practice of unity principles. Simply put, we are here to love, grow, and serve. I do want to say I'm really happy to be back, and I also want to do a shout out to Kay and Jim for carrying on with the service when Reverend Jim and I were not able to make it. Thank you so much, and to everybody who jumped in to make that happen. And boy, I'm happy to be back up here talking to you. Is there anybody here for the first time? Welcome, welcome. Delighted to have you here. Our ushers will bring you a visitor's packet. Am I on? Yes. Okay, good. They'll bring you a visitor's packet. We're so delighted to have you here. Please feel free to stay afterwards. Come speak to Reverend Jim and myself. Meet our congregants. They're all very friendly. If you have any questions, we're happy to talk to you about that. So welcome. And now I'd like to invite you to stand and join Reverend Jim as he leads us in the song, Joy to the World. Oh, I forgot we have Kaylin Tan. You've already heard her beautiful piano music. Let's give her a warm welcome back. We're going to be seeing more of her, I'm happy to say. All right, Joy to the World. Let's join in our opening prayer. I invite you to gently close your eyes and turn within. As we join together in a very sacred moment of prayer time. We take this time on this third Sunday of Advent to remember love. Knowing that love is a powerful attribute of God, we know that it lives within us and expresses through us. So today we open our hearts, we claim this love, both the personal love we feel for each other, for our loved ones, for our family, for our pets. But we open our hearts broader to allow that love to grow and express as the divine love, which is our source, which connects us to each and every living being on this planet, into each and every living thing. That is what love truly is. And as we celebrate Christmas and the Christ coming, awakening within our hearts and in our minds, we open our hearts to allow that love to flow freely. In joyful gratitude for knowing this truth, we say amen, and so it is. Now please join me in the unity prayer of oneness. There is one presence and one power in my life and universe, God, the good, omnipotence. We claim and affirm this presence in our lives as love. Now let's take a moment to open the floor in sacred silence to allow you the opportunity to speak aloud or to yourself a name of someone you want to lift in prayer, a name or a situation that you want to be heard and opened into the arms of Spirit for healing. I open that space now. These prayers have been heard and they have been held in the light. And we are grateful to know this is so. So it is. If you are in need of prayer, also aside from our prayer box and our prayer ministry, there is Silent Unity, which is a 24-hour prayer line. What is it? 1-800-NOW-PRAY is a phone number. So in the holidays are an amazingly joyous time, but they can also bring some sadness. So don't be hesitant to reach out and ask for prayer. It's a beautiful time to connect in that way. I'd like to invite up now Brent and Fred. My goodness. We've had a lot of changes, so please forgive me. Fred and Brent, and they're going to read our daily word.
Today's daily word is love. I feel blessed to share God's steadfast love. As Advent season continues, I give thanks for the steadfast love of God, which dispels the darkness and conflict and loneliness with the light of harmony and togetherness.
Escucha, la palabra es amor. ¿Sabe? Me siento bendecido al compartir el amor invariable de Dios. A medida que la temporada de Adviento avanza, expreso gratitud por el amor inquebrantable de Dios que disipa la oscuridad del conflicto y la soledad, iluminado con armonía y unidad.
Love is personal and sacred, human and divine, immediate and immortal. Amid seasonal greetings for joy and peace, I give thanks for the power of love.
Este amor es personal y sagrado, humano y divino, inmediato e inmortal, en medio de los saludos de alegría, la paz en esta temporada. Agradezco el poder del amor. Como ser divino, llevo el amor de Dios al mundo.
I am a divine being, bringing the love of God into the world through my words and actions. I am kind and patient, compassionate and empathetic, and encouraging and supportive.
A través de mis palabras y acciones manifiesto mi amabilidad, que paciencia y compasión, empatía, aliento y apoyo. Al ser bendicho con el amor, comparto sus bendiciones con los demás. Me centro en el Cristo morador y avanzo como el corazón y las manos del amor en el mundo.
As I am blessed by love, I share love's blessings with others. I center myself on the Christ within and go forth as a heart and hands of love in the world.
El escritor, amados, amémonos unos a otros, porque el amor es de Dios. Todo aquel que ama ha nacido de Dios y conoce a Dios. 1 Juan 4, 2.7.
Beloved, let us love one another, because love is from God. Everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. 1 John 4:7.
Gracias.
Good afternoon, everybody. So it is. Third week in Advent. We're going to talk about love and that focus on love today. We're going to explore all the ways love is present during this Advent week, this coming week. And spoiler alert, our goal is to choose to love in our lives fully and unconditionally. Spoiler alert. Fully and unconditionally. And maybe that's easier said than done. Maybe. But what we're going to talk about here today is how. How do we get there? How do we get to that loving fully and unconditionally? I had an experience this week. I shared with a couple of people already out there in the congregation. So a couple of people forgive me for repeating this story, but it was an important event in my life. I was at Harris Teeter a few days ago. I was just picking up a few groceries. I walked past the coffee section, and either Starbucks or Caribou or Pete's is usually on sale, right? One of those three. Those are my favorite coffees. A nice dark roast coffee. And Pete's was on sale as I walked by. $11.99 on sale for $8.99. $3. How do you pass that up, right? $3. So I grabbed my coffee and a couple of other things, went and stood in line. And when it was my turn to check out, the checkout person, if anyone has ever shopped there, they ask you for your, what's it called? It's a VIC card, right? Your frequent flyer card, whatever you want to call it. And I don't have the card with me. Reverend Lisa has our joint card, but I have the phone number. And I knew that I could get, so, 914-253-9999. She types it in. No, I'm sorry, that's not a valid number. Okay, well, let me do it again. And I slowed down a little bit. 914-253-9999. She types it in. I'm sorry, sir, that's not a valid number. Third time, I said it a little louder. Right. And still, it's like, no, there's no such account. And so I had a meeting within 5 minutes I needed to get to, and I was thinking, let's just go. You know, I don't need it. But so she rang it up, and I stood there, and it's like, I'm giving up $3. I can't do this. I said, one more time. Let's do this one more time. And I really slowed down. 904. And we got through that number, and she announced to me, Well, finally, you gave me the right number. I had a choice at that moment, right? I had a choice at that moment. I could be right because I knew I'd given her that number 4 times before. I know that number by heart. I could have argued with her that no, it wasn't me, it was you. But instead, I said, well, thank you. I appreciate it. And I'll finish the story towards the end. But I simply, as I spoke to you a couple of weeks ago, I gave her a pass. And I thanked her. And I had no need to be right at that point. What is the Advent? We spoke to this idea for the past 2 weeks. Advent is that spirit of anticipation, coming into place. It's an arrival of something important in our lives, that anticipation of arrival. Within Christianity, it's 4 Sundays leading up to Christmas, each one celebrating a virtue or a quality that we aspire to, that we aim for, we endeavor to achieve, we strive toward each of these things. That first week, I spoke of hope and faith. Last week, it was peace. Reverend Jim Fuller so eloquently spoke to peace, and we thank him for that. Today, we're speaking to love, and next week, we will round out Advent with joy as well. Again, qualities that we aspire to as we lead up to Christmas. Metaphysically, we think of it as leading up to the birth of that Christ within each one of us. So it's not just that Christmas story that we've told hundreds of times before, it seems, but it is that Christ, the birth of the Christ within each one of us is what this Advent season is all about. In essence, it's a spiritual preparation. A spiritual preparation. It's a beginning leading up to our own personal, and because we're in unity, our own personal metaphysical Christmas story. Metaphysical Christmas story. The divine child born in each one of us. And it's very similar, if anyone has studied Buddhism, it's very similar to what the Buddhists would call the beginner's mind. That birth of a child is very similar to beginner's mind as well. That wide-eyed freshness of childhood. So within unity, we see it as an unlimited potential for growth, that birth, something new for divine creation, the newness of divine creation. And this is available out in the hallway as you go. This is the Advent booklet for us. Grab one of these because everything I'm speaking on today came out of this, and you can follow along every single day for next week as well. But in sitting with this lesson this week, I've got to give you a hint. I like to include an affirmation, and this is our affirmation for this week, and I love to share it. But honestly, it's for me. I create this, and then I share it with you. So I take this with me every single day in the coming week. But I appreciate the chance for me to be able to sit and create this and then share it. So let's say this out loud together. I am created and live in unconditional love. Absolutely. I am created and live in unconditional love. So let me share with you how our Christmas story, our traditional Christmas story, shows up in our Advent candles. And our Advent candles are back here today. So this is not unity teaching in any way. It's not someone else's theology. But I'm going to go through these candles, these Advent candles today. Know that this is me. This is my interpretation of the Christmas story, of these Advent candles here today. So our first candle is hope and faith. And we light that candle for hope and faith. It shows up for me in a couple different ways, but it shows up for me in the Old Testament and then moves into the New Testament. Hope shows up in the Old Testament in those hope-filled predictions of the Old Testament. Within Micah, the prediction of the Messiah being born in Bethlehem. In Hosea, the Messiah would spend time in Egypt. In Isaiah, a virgin will bear a son and his name will be Emmanuel. So that's the anticipation. That's the hope that I see in those predictions of the Old Testament. Moving into faith in the New Testament. Because in the New Testament, knowing that in our hearts, that divinity is born and renewed within each telling of that Christmas story. That's where it came to fruition. That's where that faith actually happens. So faith and hope was that first candle. Our second candle, peace. We light that as well. For me, this is just like that journey of the wise men. As we prepare our hearts to feel that presence of the Christ within ourselves. This is where we establish peace inside of ourselves. Peace. Where each step of that journey, such as the journey of those wise men, each step of that journey, that they followed that star through divine wisdom. They connected with that wisdom that was theirs. And that brings us closer to peace within our lives as well. That lasting peace that we can know as well. And then today we have our third candle. This is love. This is the renewal of life through that birth of the inner Christ. And for me, this is the story of Mary and Joseph within the Christmas story. This is where Joseph shows up. This is the story of bringing love into our lives. This is where the angels and the shepherds show up. Angels and shepherds metaphysically showing up as messengers. There's some message that we need to get out of our daily lives, out of the things that show up, out of the coffee that's for sale at Harris Teeter. These are the things that just seem like they might be unimportant, but these things show up in our lives. And can we glean that wisdom out of that? Can we understand those messages that we're receiving? When we take time to listen to these divine messages, we know that love manifests as wisdom within our lives. And it brings a greater awareness of that divine within our own lives. In the New Testament, we read about Mary, mother of Jesus. And metaphysically, Mary represents within our lives, Mary represents that devotion to our higher selves. Let me repeat that. The devotion to our higher selves. As a mother, devotion to our higher selves. So within the Gospel of Luke, this is a quote from Mary. My soul magnifies the divine, and my spirit rejoices. Again, metaphysically, we're not worried about what she was necessarily saying. Is it true? Did she actually say this? This is a message. We're listening to these messengers. This is a message to us. My soul magnifies the divine. Does your soul magnify the divine? Yes. Yes, absolutely. That is the message we get from this. My soul magnifies the divine. My spirit rejoices. So we ask ourselves the question, what in that Gospel of Matthew does it say about love? So this is in the New Testament from Matthew. You shall love the Lord. So somebody asked Jesus what was the most important, what was the greatest commandment, is what they asked him. But the reason I chose this is what it reads. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. Love. You shall love. Now we can replace those words. You shall love God with, what is your word for God? Shout it out. Spirit. Creator. Source. I like divine spirit. Some people like the universe. Each one of those is okay. Each one of those is a unique expression. You shall love, and then you fill in the blank. Now, this is not about, let's not misinterpret this scripture. This is not about worshiping something outside of ourselves. This is not saying that you should fall down on your knees and worship whatever image of God you have. This is about love. This is about loving all the good that surrounds you. God is everything everywhere, right? Omnipresent, omniscient, all those omni words that we can think of. It is about loving the goodness of that creative power with all your heart, mind, and soul. And then what? Love your neighbor as yourself. That's the second part of that teaching. Love God, but then just as important, love your neighbor as yourself. So those three parts, love God, love yourself, and love your neighbor. Can we see a theme here, right? Love. Love and love. Have we forgotten any piece there? So we've got God, we've got ourselves, we've got our neighbor. Is there anything that we shouldn't love? I guess is my question. Doesn't that include everything? These are the most important things, is what our way shower told us. Love. Love everything. Love it fully and love it unconditionally. I feel like that's a mic drop moment right there. Love unconditionally. So this is that unconditional love that we speak of in Advent. This gift of love without expectation of receiving anything else in return. This is the gift of the birth of the Christ within each one of us, within our hearts. This is that warm and fuzzy within that we get to feel when we love unconditional. As we give and embody that divine love, we also receive as well. So we're giving, we're receiving, we're interacting with those in our lives. So that interaction within our lives, and for me, that interaction was with that checkout person at Harris Teeter, right? And I simply said, taking my $3, I needed that $3, right? But just simply saying thank you and smiling at her, wishing her a good day, and then walking out. I know that she felt that love because I saw it in her eyes. That's just before I turned to leave and walk out. But I'm here to tell you, as I was walking out of Harris Teeter, so what's that, 20 seconds to get out the door? I could swear that everybody else in that store was smiling at me, right? It felt like it. I got a couple of have a nice days. I got a Merry Christmas from somebody coming in the door. That was unconditional love that was flowing to and from. I'm going to suggest that in that moment I was in heaven. I had created heaven based on that unconditional and fully present love in my life. And I got to tell you, that's where I want to be more and more often. Felt good. Felt good. One last time. I am created and live in the unconditional love. Know that I love you, I bless you, I appreciate you. I see the divine in each and every one of you. Namaste. And we have another Christmas carol. No, we don't. Yes, we do. So many things have changed this morning. It's hard for me to keep track. We're going to do a meditation right now. So I invite you to wiggle around. I invite you to settle yourself in, to find a comfortable spot. Your hands in your lap, if that feels comfortable. To take a breath. To allow yourself some quiet time here today. And use the words that I speak as your own. I'm going to use I statements here, and take those as your own as I speak them. Because I know that my natural state lives in unconditional love. I am focused on that quality of love in my daily life. In fact, not only am I conscious of this, I anticipate love within my life. There is an expectation of love flowing in and through my life. This is my reality. My reality is based in that Advent quality of love. And this knowledge makes all the difference in my world, all the difference in each day. continue to breathe as we spend a few moments in silence. And as we begin to come out of this silence that we've enjoyed, I claim that love. I claim that love to be a birthright in my life. And it expands every day. I can even think of it expanding with each breath I take throughout my day. We can begin to become aware of the room. We can open our eyes when we're ready. Namaste.
All right. Thank you, Reverend Jim, for reminding us that love is the reason for the season. That is the Christ presence, born and living within each of our hearts. And now we move into the offertory part of our service, for you know that as we give, so we receive. What a time Christmas is for remembering the abundance and the generosity of this amazing human life. So please join me in the offertory blessing, prosperity blessing. Joyously, I give this gift, knowing the divine presence blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. The light of God surrounds us. We are light. The love of God enfolds us. We are love. The power of God protects us. We are power. The presence of God watches over us. We are presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.